All right, welcome to EFT during the COVID pandemic. So this is for helping in times of uncertainty, giving you peace amidst uncertainty. My name is Andrea Crisp, and my colleague Chris Mandeville is also helping with these calls. He is, again, still working out of town this week, and so he will be joining us. He's driving back right now, and he will be joining us later during the call. So thank you so much for joining us again. I think everybody here has done EFT, so we can get right to it. We may have some more people who are coming on the call, but we've got return folks, so that's great. So just to get kind of some of the intro stuff out of the way, both Chris and I have done training with EFT International and are fully accredited. He just finished his accreditation recently, and I've been accredited for a couple years now. We both have been doing EFT for much longer than that. And so we're happy to be sharing this amazing tool during this really stressful time. It's something that you can get great benefits from working with one of us one-on-one or another practitioner, but it's also a great self-help tool. So that's one of the reasons I really like it, because it's so empowering. Once you've learned it, you can use it throughout your life. So really our intention with this is just to try and increase awareness of this tool and get it out to as many people as we can right now during this pandemic. Today, we're going to be doing the same as we have on our previous calls. So we're just doing an intro group tapping, a big global tapping to get us started, and then have a few tips about using EFT in your regular day-to-day life, things that you can take with you, and then answer any questions people might have, and then we'll take a volunteer. And for that section, we will turn off the recording so that we can respect people's privacy, and then it also makes it easier for people to volunteer, so you don't have to worry about it being out in the internet world. That sometimes stops people from wanting to volunteer. It's hard enough to volunteer in front of a group of people as it is. So that's what we will be doing. I don't think we have anybody here that's new to Zoom, but we will have cameras turned off except for the people who will be tapping. So if you end up being the volunteer, we'll turn the camera and sound on for you. Otherwise, you can use the chat. So if you look, if you're on a phone, I'm not positive where stuff is at, but when you're on a computer, there's a menu of different things of choices all down at the bottom, and you can enable the chat function there. And let's see, the other thing that we want to make sure that we're pointing out is both Chris and I are trained in what often gets referred to as clinical EFT. It's the original EFT as it was created by the founder, Gary Craig. It's what gets used in all of the scientific studies that have been done that are showing what a great tool it is, how basically the efficacy, it's been now approved for use by therapists who are working through people with the VA, and the list is slowly but surely growing longer for the areas where it's getting approved and getting recognition. So that's really exciting. There's been some really great research that's been done over the last few years that's been coming out. And so that is what we're using. There's a lot of other tapping that's out there. Most of it comes from traditional EFT, but there are differences. And so we just want to be clear that that's where we're coming from, and we're doing things associated with the training that we've received. Let's see, we like to make sure that people have something to drink. We try to get people to drink water, or at least something that's not caffeinated, because being dehydrated when you're doing any kind of energy work is not good, so you're going to get better results. I'm drinking seltzer water that has fire cider in it. If anybody knows what fire cider is, every time my husband's like, "Oh, what are you drinking?" and then he smells it and is like, "Ah!" It's vinegar that's been apple cider vinegar with the mother that's been soaking with things like garlic and onions and hot peppers and citrus. I find it quite tasty, but it is definitely an acquired taste. But so make sure that you have some water or something non-caffeinated to drink. If you're going to be tapping using your face, make sure that you have clean hands and wash your hands when you're done. We'll also be showing the non-face points for people who don't want to be touching their face. And the other thing I always like to remind people is make sure that you just keep tapping. So whether you're hearing the volunteer talk about something that is also maybe a trigger and is speaking to you and you're feeling upset by that, or just whatever the issues are that you have going on with life in general and the pandemic right now, just keep tapping. So we have the setup statement that we use in EFT, and the whole point of the setup and the talking is to tune you into your emotions. But if you're already feeling flooded and upset, whether that's anger or tears, you don't have to say anything, just tap. So if that happens during the call, just keep tapping. And if you are upset enough that you're having trouble going through the whole sequence, that's okay. Tap on whatever point you can remember, whatever your favorite one is, whatever's the easiest, and just keep tapping. That physical aspect of the tapping is really what's doing all the work. So just remember that. If you're not sure what to do, just tap. Even if you're not sure what to say or any of the other things, just keep tapping. All right, so because it's just me right now, I'm just going to quickly go through and remind everybody, if you don't want to tap on your face, we do the side of the hand, or what we call the sore spot or tender spots that are in here when we're doing the setup statement, and then it's the top of the head. What I do is I usually hang out on each point a little longer, because if you're skipping the face, we add in a few points, but there's still less points. So it's the top of the head, the collarbone, where you come down to where they start to meet, and it's a little bit further on either side. So you can use one hand or do like this. And then the liver point, which I'll stand up and show, is underneath the breast at the bottom of the rib cage. So you can do like this, or just do one side, whatever is most comfortable for you. And then under the arm, which is about where the bra strap would be on a woman, so it's not up in your armpit, it's down a little bit further than that. And then the wrist points. So I use these all the time, actually, when I'm doing EFT, but not everybody does. They're not common, actually. Is the front of one wrist to the back of the other, and then I switch back and forth. The reason I like these is because in the traditional full recipe EFT, there were a few other things that we did, some eye rolling and some other stuff, and including tapping on finger points. And so that's been cut out, because the shortcut, which, not that it was that long to begin with, but the shorter version, which is what we are doing on these calls, works for most people in most situations. And so so we cut out the finger tapping and some of the other stuff, and only pull that out if it's not working for somebody. Then we might try some of that. But using the wrist points gets all the meridians from the finger that go down and through the wrist. And so I added those in after hearing an acupuncturist talk about, it was an acupuncturist who also does EFT, talk about using the wrist points. And I have really loved them, and have been using them for years ever since. And now that all these people are trying to avoid the face, a lot of people have added the wrist points in, but I've been doing that for a long time. So if you're used to doing EFT before these calls and you don't want to do the wrist points, that's all right. And if you want to touch your face or not touch your face, whatever you are comfortable with is quite all right. All right, so now we've gotten all that talking out of the way. We only have a few of us today, so not sure if anyone else will join. There were a couple people who I know couldn't make it tonight, and a few other people who are going to be late besides Chris, potentially, so we'll just see who shows up. But one of the things I wanted to share before we started our group tapping was just another little tip for doing EFT throughout your day. So a lot of clients have trouble remembering to do it. Like how do I make it more of a habit where it becomes something that I just am doing regularly? It's like a go-to self-help tool. And Chris talked about some stuff in a previous call where you can do it in the morning as you're starting your day, or you can do it at the end of your day, either after work or before bed, to help clear out some of the stress of the day. But you can also pick something that you do regularly throughout your day and just tap every time you do that. So whether it's every time you're filling up your water glass, and when you go into the kitchen or the break room or whatever to fill up your water glass, have that serve as a reminder, like, okay, I'm going to do a little tapping right now, just very brief. It can just be one round or something. I am somebody who really likes jewelry. I'm not wearing them right now. I tend to not wear it when I'm on a call like this doing EFT, but I have some mandala bracelets that I wear that have certain meanings for me and reminders of certain things that I want to be aware of and cognizant throughout my day. And so I often will use something like that, like a piece of jewelry, as a reminder for those types of things. So whether it's a bracelet or a physical thing that you're wearing, every time you see that, have that serve as a reminder to do some tapping, or whether it's picking something else that you do, like when you brush your teeth in the morning, in the evening, maybe that's when you want to do a little tapping at the same time. So those are just some ideas for you to have kind of in the back of your mind, circulating, so you can start to think ways that you can start to incorporate doing a little bit of tapping in your day-to-day. All right, so with all that, I wanted to ask, what is going on for people? So for our group tap, I thought I would just check in with everybody first and see. So if you want to type anything in the chat, is there anything specific related to the pandemic that's been up for you today or this last week? A trigger or something that's has you worried or upset? If you want to put any of that in the chat, that would be great. And if nobody has anything, I have other stuff I can throw out there. I just want to see what's showing up for people in the room. All right, so I'm not getting any action in the chat. So that's all right. So I am seeing, just through people that I know, myself, but also on people on social media, that just all the unknown and the uncertainty of everything is really starting to get to people. I mean, that's kind of been an issue all along, but like there's still so much of it, even after we've been here in Oregon, you know, in our stay-at-home order since mid-March. So here we are going on mid-May, so that even 2 months into this, we're still not really quite sure about how things are going to be going moving forward, and that unknown and uncertainty seems to be causing quite a bit of angst for a lot of people. And so I thought we could just do some global tapping on that, since nobody's bringing up anything specifically. So go ahead and start with the side of the hand. And you're going to repeat after me. And so this global tapping that we do in the beginning is really to get people in the room, back in your bodies, back, you know, present and more grounded. And also can help people tune in to what's going on for them as well. So especially if you're coming straight into this call from working or dealing with kids and all these other things, you can feel stressed out. And so doing some global tapping like what we're doing here, whether it's on your own or as in a group, can be really helpful. And so when I say global tapping, I mean, we're tapping about something, but we're not getting super duper specific to your specific situation, because that's where the real juice is in EFT, is getting specific and tapping about very specific things. And so we're going to do just some global tapping around the uncertainty. So even though I have all this fear, and you can repeat after me and keep tapping. There's so much uncertainty with this pandemic. We really don't know what's going on, not with the illness itself, nor with what's going to happen with the economy. And yet, I deeply and completely accept myself and how I'm feeling. Even though I have all this uncertainty and all this fear when I think about the pandemic, some places are talking about stopping the stay-at-home order, other places aren't. Who's right? What's the right thing to do? I feel like we need to get back to work, but maybe it's not safe. It's just so uncertain. And yet I still deeply and completely accept myself and how I'm feeling. Even though I have all this fear and all this uncertainty. And for me, I can feel it in my chest. So if you're feeling anything, you can name the part of your body. If not, that's okay. I really just don't know what's going to happen or what to expect. I'm worried about my family and my friends. Worried about the essential health care workers and all the other essential workers. But at the same time, I'm worried about the economy. It's just so uncertain. What's the right move? What's the right thing to do? And yet I deeply and completely accept myself and how I'm feeling. All right, so top of the head. All this fear. Now I'm going to go ahead and tap on my face since I'm the only one here, but if you don't want to, you can skip down. All this fear. Outer eye. So uncertain. This fear in my chest. All this fear. This uncertainty is so scary. This fear of the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen. All this fear and uncertainty. All right. So that was one round. Anybody have anything to share after that one round? Did anything come up for anybody? If it did, you can go ahead and throw that into the chat. I'm going to grab a sip. All right, and it looks like Chris is here. I'm going to go ahead and let him in, and we will do another round. All right, so we just finished one round of the global tapping, Chris, on uncertainty with the pandemic. So we're going to do another round. All right. Even though I have all this fear, when I think about the pandemic and how uncertain the future is, there's so much unknown about the virus itself and about what's going to happen to the economy and the world. And yet, I still deeply and completely accept myself and how I'm feeling. Even though I have all this fear, feel so scared with everything so uncertain. There's so much unknown. We don't know how it's going to affect the economy. We don't know if people are getting reinfected or if there's more than one strain. There's all these different things that are floating around the internet. It's really scary not having all the answers. And yet I deeply, completely accept myself and how I'm feeling. Even though I have all this fear, when I think of the uncertainty around the pandemic, I don't know if we should be releasing the stay-at-home order and people should be going back to their lives. Should we do it all at once? Should it be done slowly? Should we not do it at all and just stay with the stay-at-home order? I don't know what the right thing to do is. And I could feel all this fear in my chest. So if you're feeling it somewhere else, you can just name where you're feeling it. And I deeply and completely accept myself. And I think that was 3, right? So top of the head. So now that Chris is here, I'm going to go back to me not touching my face. So all this uncertainty, all this fear, all this fear and uncertainty. All this fear. So you can go do side of the eye now. All this fear. All this fear. So much unknown. All this fear. Things are so uncertain. All this fear. All this uncertainty. All right. So anybody have anything come up or any feedback? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, so someone in chat saying they don't feel connected with everyone who's being affected. Yeah, and that's a really good thing to point out because there are so many different experiences that are happening, right? So a lot of people are, under the stay-at-home order and they're completely not working. Maybe they've lost their jobs. But for some people, not too much has changed. You hear some people talking about, that they're lonely or they're bored, and then other people are like, I'm still working, or I'm having to take care of the kids all day now, or whatever it is, and so they're not feeling that boredom. They're feeling like they don't have enough time for everything. So there's different things that are coming up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So wishing to feel more connected and empathetic. Yeah. Yeah, good to see you back again. Yeah, we've got some people who are returning, and then yeah, Mark has not necessarily been on this call, but he's familiar with EFTs. So yeah, great. So Chris, how are you feeling? Does anybody feel like they need another round of global tapping, or is anybody ready to be a volunteer? Is anybody interested in bringing anything up, even if it doesn't have to be around uncertainty? If there's something else that's coming up that's related to the pandemic.
Yeah, so just while you guys are, oh, Megan wants to volunteer. Great. So Megan, maybe just type what you want to work on. I just want to take a moment to introduce myself. I'm sorry I'm late. I took on a new job, and so we're still, the job is like an hour away, and we're going to move to a closer location, but it hasn't happened yet. So anyway, so I'm Chris, and Andrew and I have been doing this together for a few weeks now. Is this like the fourth or fifth week?
I think this is our fourth call, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But I could be losing track.
Yeah. Yeah. And I live in Portland as well, and I have married. I have a husband and a bulldog, and we live in Southeast Portland. So glad to be joining you, and appreciate you guys all being here. So if we're ready to work with volunteer, then
Yeah, or does anybody have any questions before and I think that probably because we have people that are returning or already connected, but I'm going to just put in the chat the links to, so we we took off the registration because we were having some issues with people getting in, to the calls, and Zoom is so overwhelmed that even though there's been a support ticket out for a couple of weeks, I haven't heard anything back, which is kind of what I expected. And so we took off the registration, but with that means that there's not follow-up emails and that type of thing. So we've created a Facebook group. So I've put the links to the Facebook group there. If you'd like to join that Facebook group, we'll upload videos and people can ask questions, and there's some things in the files as well. I put the things that are in the files here in the chat as well. So there's the tapping chart and some EFT tips and a PDF handout. Blah, 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 blah. And then I've also created a borrowing benefits playlist. And so I've put that in the chat as well. And this is something that you can basically borrow benefits, which is what we're going to do coming up here with the volunteer. So you don't have to be tapping on your specific problem to be tapping. If you know what your issue is and the thing that you're concerned about, you can make a mental note or make notes of that. I like to write stuff down when I'm getting started so I can keep track of where I started and what comes up along the way and where I end up, whether I'm working with a client or with myself. And so you can basically do that and then just tap along to some of these videos that are of full recorded sessions where a practitioner is tapping with a client. And so I have that put together for people to follow along and borrow benefits. So with that, I think we're ready. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording because it didn't look like we had any more questions or anything. So give me a second to stop that recording.